And welcome to our special audience edition of Hannity, Stoned America. Now, for the entire hour, we're going to be discussing the rampant increase in marijuana use in the country, and in particular, the call for more states to legalize this drug. Now, in the audience tonight, we have people on both sides of the issue, but before we bring them in, well, our producers recently traveled to Denver for the annual 420 pot smoking event. We've been focusing all week on the program about what happened at that event. Tonight, we're taking the conversation to a whole new level, and it starts right here, right now.
I love smoking pot. That's it.
No one died from weed. No one overdosed from weed.
This is our choice.
It's marijuana everywhere.
If we're going to label a gateway drug, we would have to go for caffeine or aspirin. Nothing really could go wrong with weed.
It's not harmful at all.
I don't think all drugs should be legalized.
It's America. People are going to do what they want. It's free will.
I mean, we all start with something.
This is like the biggest gathering of smokers in probably the whole world.
A lot more likely to die from drinking than smoking weed.
I think cannabis should be legalized.
I don't think marijuana is any more dangerous than alcohol.
Studies that show it helps cancer.
This is what we want to be able to have, and it's a great day in America.
All right, is this our future? Is this our reality? A stoned America. We bring in our studio audience. All right, is this going to be our future? Every state legalized? What do you think? Is that the future? Yes. How many say yes? Hands up. How many say no? I actually think it will be. I think states will follow because the government wants the money. How many agree the government wants the money? I think the government wants the money. Let's start on the medical side. Dr. Braverman, you made a strong case this week on this program that this is not good for children. There's a study that came out just today. Marijuana use may increase heart complications in young and middle-aged adults. We have fourth graders selling pot in Colorado. Medically, you say this is bad.
It's a really bad choice for reward, for anxiety. It doesn't help the brain. Work, love, exercise, family. You should get a high from doing great schoolwork, not getting a high from this. Athletics, exercise. This is the worst way to do a high.
What do you see with people that are chronic? Like, I'm looking at these young kids.
They have no motivation anymore, and they go to the next level. Then they can't get high anymore from pot. They need coke. They need alcohol. They keep going. It's a gateway drug with a lifetime psychiatric payoff.
Dr. Siegel.
I see it differently. I think he's blurring something here. I think we can make a scientific statement that someone's dying of cancer, they have no way to stop their nausea, or someone has uncontrollable seizures.
That's a different issue, though.
Hold on a minute. I want to make that point. There are indications for medical marijuana, but those have been misused deliberately by states like California, now every other state marching along, deliberately misusing that very narrow indication as a reason for promoting recreational use, which I agree with him is extremely dangerous.
Why is it dangerous medically? That's why I wanted to start with you doctors. Why is it dangerous medically?
Well, first of all, it damages brain cells. It interferes with thinking. It interferes with test results.
This isn't reefer madness. We're not freaking.
People don't do well on tests. This week there's a study out of France, and it's the third study out of France that shows it can interfere with your heart. People can get heart attacks because of marijuana. Now, that's not that common, but that indicates how active it is. It raises your heart rate. It raises or lowers your blood pressure. It interferes with your thinking, your brain. You get behind the wheel of a car, even more impaired than alcohol. Both are bad.
Let me ask Chloe. You're one of the young members of our. You're one of the young members of our audience.
Lord have mercy.
A lot of your friends smoke pot regularly?
I know some that do.
Many?
Leave me out of this.
Okay, I will.
And other drugs?
Here's my thinking behind it. You know, I went to school in the South. I saw a lot of people who smoked a lot of pot, and I believe it's a gateway drug. I believe that if you're going to try marijuana, that you're probably more likely to try cocaine, that you're more likely to maybe try Molly. And again, I'm an entertainment reporter, so I also see people like Rihanna and Miley Cyrus who, glorify smoking marijuana and make the younger generation and millennials think that it's a cool thing to do.
What about the doctor's observations that it reduces their motivation, their ambition, their drive.
Do you know how many students I saw in college who smoked pot and skipped class, who smoked so much pot that they didn't take their tests, that they forgot to study? It impairs your judgment, and it does not increase motivation. Like you were saying, go out and run a little bit, and that will give you a better high.
The only two successful potheads I met in my life were Cheech and Chong. Right? Think about it.
Don't forget Snoop Dogg. Don't forget Snoop Dogg.
Can we get real about the gateway drug?
Go ahead, yeah.
For a second here, the majority of people sitting here, because we asked before we started rolling camera, the majority of people sitting here have smoked pot once in their lives.
Thank you.
How many people here have tried heroin?
Thank you.
Probably not.
Have you ever tried?
You
Like they would admit it on national television.
But pot is a very popular drug. Hard drugs are not popular. This is a very unsuccessful.
Wait a minute. Let me stop you for 1 second because I want. All right. But here's the question I have. These kids, you watch this tape, and I watch all this B-roll and all this video. They are pounding this down in huge quantities, and wait a minute, and many of them on a regular basis. The fact that somebody sampled it, experimented with it, that's a little different than what this is becoming.
Sean, it's at a pot party. If you rolled cameras at the St. Patrick's Day parade a block from here, you would have seen a lot of drunk people.
Last year, there were 5 citations at this event. It's only been legal in the state of Colorado at home. It's not even legal to do it in public. There were 5 citations last year. We're now 16 months into it, and this year there were 92 citations, and 420 fell on Easter.
Y'all keep saying kids.
All right, hang on, sure, go ahead.
Y'all keep saying kids. Weed ain't for kids, just like alcohol is not for kids.
Do you smoke weed?
Yes, I smoke pot.
A lot of pot.
I don't smoke a lot of pot.
You stoned now?
I'm not dipping into your stash, but I smoke.
I don't have any stash.
What do you think about this?
However, even though pot isn't for kids, you're right, and there is an age limit, this does affect children. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was a case in Colorado where a man ate hashish cookies, like pot with cookies, OD'd, hallucinated, shot his wife in front of their 3 children. So this does affect families.
Kid that actually jumped off.
Yes, who jumped off a building. So this does affect,
Sean, the producer said that parents were there with their kids.
Sean.
Smoking with their
kids.
Yeah. Now, by the way, that's more common than you think.
That's a lot of
right? Drinking and.
It is a proven gateway drug. Let me tell you the opposite of what he just said. 500,000 heroin users in the United States. It's tripled over the past decade. Almost every single one of them started with marijuana. So, okay, you can say only one person in the room here uses it, but if you do use it, you start with marijuana.
Let's go for the one fact. I'm probably one of the oldest in the audience. I grew up through the 60s.
One of the best looking,
through the 60s. Let me tell you something, Sean. Fact. Every one of the potheads that I knew at that time, when they said, hey, bro, hey, bro, what's that? What's going on? Every one of them are brain dead. It's fact. Everyone that I know in my long history of life, everyone that was a pot smoker, their brains are defunctated.
Wait. Tamara has been a big defender all this week about pot. You and the good doctor, Dr. Braverman, had a fight earlier this week. What about what Bo's saying? What about what everybody's saying here? You go to Colorado a lot. Why? I have no idea.
Well, I'm born and raised in Colorado.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. But Sean, this is the issue that I have. I think that all of these studies are very important, good or bad, and that is why we need the studies for people to choose when they vote. When this becomes legislation and it's on the ballot, you make an informed decision. Do you want to vote for guns or not? Do you want to vote for marijuana or not? And these are the studies that make people decide. And the people of Colorado and Washington voted in favor.
But I'm not.
You're now all of a
thing.
sudden opposed to it.
No, look, I don't put marijuana on the same level as crack and heroin and acid and Molly and ecstasy and okay, whatever. We'll get to that in a minute. I don't. But here's the problem. I do believe, like Chloe said and others have said, it's a gateway drug. And I also believe that its increased availability and legality is going to end up with America that's going to look a lot like those pictures.
But that's what people were saying about the prohibition with alcohol. And all these young kids, can I tell you how many times I was drunk in college and missed my classes because I was hungover?
Let me guess.
Alcohol,
every day?
not marijuana. Lots of alcohol.
All right, hang on. Gavin, you said something earlier.
And these doctors bring up a great point. You know, these people are out there, they're smoking pot, and all it does is make sex amazing. It makes you laugh your head off with your friends, and it makes movies all the best best movie I've ever seen. Meanwhile, these people could be doing their math homework and getting the rush you get from nailing your calculus and getting that algorithm
you
just
raised
right.
your hand, but hang on. I'm glad our comedian's enjoying the show. You raised your hand early. You tried heroin.
Yes.
Did you shoot it? Did you snort it?
I snorted it. I don't need the state to regulate my morality. I know these things are a vice. You should see my liver from drinking. It looks like an abortion.
Here's what I don't understand. You know, these kids buy ecstasy, Molly, acid, mescaline, any of these drugs.
All in moderation.
Okay, in moderation. But here's the problem. Who made those drugs? Wait,
scientists, look at Steve Jobs. All major scientists
look
have
at
done
Philip
LSD.
Seymour Hoffman, dead. Dead. Kids, no father, dead.
Yes, heroin is a very,
but
very
you bought it from
deadly
somebody.
drug.
You didn't know if you were going to die.
Most heroin users don't die of heroin. Most smokers don't die of smoking. Just because you found some bad effects doesn't mean I want some pencil-pushing bureaucrat to walk into my house and pull a
All
joint
right,
out
we
of
got
my
to take a break. Stay right there. We'll get everybody in, I promise. That's all coming up next. Coming up, our rowdy studio audience are just getting started. And up next, I'm going to speak to somebody who helped get marijuana legalized in Colorado. And then later, our producers got an exclusive look inside a pot dispensary, one of the stores that's selling this to people over 21. You won't believe how marijuana is literally being sold out in Colorado. We'll take you inside coming up tonight here on Hannity.
When I was in England, I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it. And didn't inhale, and never tried it again.
First time ever on the Huff Post. Yo, he's smoking.
All right, a lot more where that came from, and it could explain why getting high has become so acceptable in the country as the special edition Stone America continues. Straight ahead. And welcome back to our audience edition of Hannity Stoned America. Now we're going to bring back our audience of experts and pundits in just a minute. But first, advocates for legalizing pot have long claimed that it would make using the drug safer. And they even say that it would lead to an economic boom in certain areas. Well, among those who feel that way is my next guest. He helped push the legalization efforts in Colorado and is now the Director of Communications for the Marijuana Policy Project. Mason Tvert is here. Mason, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
We actually went in. Somebody just said you're stoned. We actually went to one of the dispensaries. We're going to show that later in the program tonight. Do you have any financial interest in this at all?
No, like most Americans, I simply think marijuana prohibition has failed, and I'm dedicated to trying to end it and replace it with a more sensible approach. So just like someone might work for a nonprofit on gun rights, I'm choosing to work on marijuana policy.
All right, so you see the kids in the video that when we went out to the 420 event this weekend in Colorado, you see them, they're smoking pot, they're smoking a lot of it, very stoned, they're all happy. You heard the doctors and their observations about people that smoke pot on a regular basis, even people that went to school with them. What has your experience been? You see people smoke pot regularly. Do they have the same motivation that you do? Maybe you smoke pot regularly.
Well, we know for a fact that marijuana is an objectively less harmful substance than alcohol, as a lot of your guests have pointed out. It's less addictive, it's less toxic, and it doesn't contribute to the violence and injuries we see with marijuana.
But it takes away
with
but it takes away their ability to function, their motivation. Anybody that I've met, anybody that I've met, I'm telling you a story if you just pay attention. Anybody I've met in my life that smokes a lot of pot has zero motivation. They're not people that I consider bright, energetic, happy people in my life. That's been my experience.
That's quite frankly, that's just has something to say about who you hang out with. But the fact is that half of Americans have used marijuana. Our last 3 presidents, some of our Supreme Court justices, some of the most productive people in this country have used marijuana. I'm talking
about people that not used. There's a very different distinction here between experimented, used, and those that smoke it every day. Those that need their hit every day. For example, let's say you have kids and you see these videos of these kids at the 420 event. Your 21-year-old son or daughter says, I'm going to the 420 event, Dad, and you're going to say what?
I'm going to say, well,
Have
first
fun?
of all, it's illegal to consume marijuana in public, so be careful. But I'd much rather them use marijuana than go out binge drinking. I mean, you're going to an event
There's a
that is the
difference between-
equivalent of the one biggest frat party of the year for alcohol, and you're trying to somehow suggest that all marijuana users are these young
Do you stop at
stoner
marijuana?
kids. I mean,
Do you want to legalize
simply-
crack? Do you want to legalize heroin?
This isn't a discussion about crack and heroin.
I asked
We're talking
you.
about
No,
a
you want to
substance less
legalize
harmful
pot.
than
I'm asking
alcohol.
if you want all drugs legalized. That's a simple question. That's a logical question.
I think, like most Americans, I think the drug war has failed, and we should re-examine those policies.
I asked you
and
a
look
question.
At
I
things
didn't
like
ask you if the
mandatory
drug wars.
minimums.
Do you want to legalize heroin and crack?
Sean, no, I don't want
I'm
to.
just
I don't
asking
want
where
to
the line is
legalize
for you. All right, you answer.
heroin and crack.
All right,
no,
thank
I don't
you.
want to legalize heroin and crack. I'm here to talk about marijuana, and it's clearly you just don't like the people who use marijuana. You
That's not
like
true.
hanging out with people who drink.
That's not true. No, I think there's a big difference.
Well, I saw you
think,
on your program
I believe,
recently
hang on a
showing
second.
people how to
I
shotgun a
agree with the
beer.
doctors and the experts we have. I believe it's a gateway drug. I believe, number two, those that use it regularly and particularly, I think they lose motivation, they lose ambition. They are not as alert and aware and as engaging as the other people that I meet in my life. But anyway, Mason, we got to roll. Thank you. Appreciate you being with us. All right, head back
Thanks
to
for
our
having me.
studio audience. All right, who did I promise? Yes. What did you think about that conversation? Well, you think this is just the beginning? Do you think it's a gateway drug? Do you think...
The thing is, all of this is creating pot culture. I'm not as nervous about the drug as I am with the obsession of the pot culture. What happens with young people is they don't learn how to cope when they start smoking pot.
You're a young
to
person.
relax.
Right.
I'm way too type A for any. I never relax is the thing.
All right.
But when people don't learn to cope, then they become adults who smoke all the time. to
You
relax.
and I are the same way. Type A. All right, Joanne. All right, let me go to Todd Starnes. Todd, you come at this from a moral perspective. You write a lot about moral issues. Morally, do you see this as part of America in decline?
Oh, I think absolutely that's the case. What we have here is a case of money over morality. And, you know, right now it's really funny. Folks, we're watching the chuckleheads, you know, we're watching these folks doing what they're doing out there and getting a good laugh about it. But when the body count starts rising, when more people start dying, then maybe, yeah, it's real funny, isn't it? Real funny to talk about. But this is a
What are you
classic
talking
example.
about?
This is a classic example, Sean, of people just not giving a damn anymore. You know what? They want to do whatever they want to do.
Don't give a damn about marijuana ODs. I don't give a damn about safe falling on
No, wait a minute. Hang on a second. I think what you're saying is they start with marijuana, then they drink, and
you know
then they
what?
snort coke, and
it's
they do
hypocritical
blow, and they
because
do
where do you
this.
draw the line? Where do you draw the line?
Sean.
That's the issue. Where do you
Horace.
draw the
And you
line?
know, listen, so if you look at cigarettes, right, there's a huge push out there talking about how bad cigarettes are for you. Alcohol's the same way. What are we seeing about pot over and over again? It's how great it is. Gavin's talking about how great other drugs are. It's no longer the conversation is medical marijuana helpful? Yes, the doctor said so. But is other weed potentially bad for you? Maybe.
Keisha.
Yes. Why is there a promotion? That's my problem with it.
I agree about
Why
the
is there-
cigarettes. It's a good
why is there
analogy.
promotion?
The whole society, you can't smoke a cigarette even in your own apartment in New York anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, just
Coming from an attorney's perspective, most of my clients, I do criminal defense work with adults and juveniles. I would say 9 out of 10 of those clients have used marijuana on a regular basis. And these kids who are committing crimes, they were high on marijuana. So their judgment is all messed up. And I do believe it's a gateway drug.
It's not a kid's thing.
Yeah, but if you
It's not for
legalize it,
anyone.
but if you
It's a
legalize
gateway
it,
drug.
if you legalize it broadly, it's going to be more available to kids.
Last
I
word,
don't know
Guy.
that.
You don't have to be a super criminal to
Guy.
and I know alcohol
But
as a
it's gonna
child.
be easier if it's legalized.
You don't have to be a
around the
super
country.
criminal now. So how much easier is somebody passing it to them?
Well, listen, look at that. You think everybody's 21 at that pot party? Honestly, you think everybody's 21?
The
There's
majority
no
of the
way.
pot smokers in America are not on the campus of Colorado. Just like, look around the room. First of all, everybody on this panel is going to be talking out of a different place. The sound guys, the camera dudes, they all smoked before. Every single one of them. Look at the guy on Boom. Look at the guy on Boom. Look at his beard.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Well, first of all.
Well, let him answer.
Wait a minute. He's a friend of this program, and I work with him for years, and I can tell you that's not true. That's
Never in
not
his
true
life,
about
he
him.
never smoked
Not true.
one joint
No,
in his
you
life.
said today.
I didn't say today.
That's
I didn't say today.
stereotyping. People would
They're
assume.
actually making candy now. They got candies made out of marijuana.
Yes, pointing to you.
Candies. Now,
All right,
what
we
are
got
they
to
gonna
take a
do?
break.
Have
Hang on.
7-year-old
We'll come
children
back.
taking it?
When we come back, more on our startling new report linking casual marijuana use to brain abnormalities. That's up next.
To the newcomers that do come here to try pot for the first time, to try something a little smaller in milligrams, you know, in the pot.
All right, so the potheads in Denver, they're not too concerned. We'll check in with our doctors. They're here to respond tonight. And then later, it's our exclusive look into a pot dispensary. We're going to give you a tour that you'll actually see what it's like in Colorado. You get the choices and how anybody over 21 can go in and buy pretty much as they want. All that plus why politicians and celebrities are also to blame for the pot culture in America. Mr. President, that may include you. Stick around.
I'm in love with marriage and I'm not come here and I ain't leaving, so don't sit around and cry.
And welcome back to our special edition of Hannity Stoned America. Now, a new report was just released about the effects of smoking pot. Researchers at Northwestern University discovered that young adults who use marijuana just once or twice a week have significant brain abnormalities. And when our team of producers were in Denver this weekend, well, they asked the stoners what they thought about the study. Here's what they said.
I'm not a scientist, I don't know, and I didn't read the study, but I think it's possible. I think anything you put in your body that's foreign like that can be a problem. But, you know, again, it's America. People are going to do what they want. It's free will to a certain extent, and I don't think marijuana is any more dangerous than alcohol. If we're going to outlaw marijuana, we should outlaw alcohol too, which we tried and it didn't work.
I saw that, and I think it's similar to alcohol, you know. We're not allowed to drink until we're 21. We're not allowed to smoke until we're 21. So if you wait, then I don't really see that there's a big problem.
I would definitely agree with teenagers, definitely. But if in a cultural situation in which it's 420 friendly and these teenagers have the education, if they don't need to start smoking marijuana until well after high school.
That's pseudoscience and it's false. It was a skewed study to begin with. I looked into that study and it's not true. Cannabis is known as a bioregenerative. It causes new brain cells to grow as opposed to what your study suggests. I wouldn't be surprised. There's a lot of developmental changes that happen through adolescence and puberty. As you age, so does your brain.
All right, pretty unbelievable. That is not the only study that should make people nervous. According to a separate survey unveiled this week by the American Heart Association, they say marijuana use increases heart complications in young and middle-aged adults. And with all of these dangerous side effects, well, do you want your kids smoking pot? We turn back to our studio audience. Guy, weigh in. You want your kids in that 420 confab?
No, but I wouldn't want my kids
on
spring break, you know, doing Girls Gone Wild or any of that sort of thing.
Chloe was on this show funneling.
No,
water.
Water. But what I will say, though, really quickly while I have the microphone, is that if you try pot, we were talking earlier, you're 100 times more likely, Sean, to try cocaine.
Yeah, that's called the chicken and the egg.
Guy?
Here's the thing, and I've been listening to these arguments. I'm sort of in the middle on this issue. Like a lot of Americans, a bit ambivalent. I understand and agree with some of the arguments that marijuana use is not something we should encourage, and it's not necessarily good for people or for society at large. But I look at how much money we spend trying to enforce a failed prohibition, and I wonder, is it worth it anymore? And I'm very open to arguments as a fiscal conservative that we need to abandon that as a country.
You know what my fear is that that's going to spread, and that a lot of these kids, that's what they're going to be doing. Brian, yeah.
But you're saying that's going to spread as if it's not already spread. I mean, kids are already smoking pot. It's not as if us talking here is going to stop that from happening. But let me finish my point. Yeah. Anything in excess is bad. Alcohol in excess is bad. So the idea that pot leads to all this
reading the Bible
crazy.
in excess is
But let me
bad.
also say something.
Not
Went to hold on, Sean. I've gone to the best schools in this country, and kids and everyone smokes pot everywhere. Investment banks.
Not every kid.
Listen,
not every kid.
What I'm saying to you is there is a large number of very productive members of this country and of this world who smoke pot. So this crazy idea.
All right, hang on a second. Noah comes at this. He's our friend from media. You come at this from a media angle. Think about Bill Clinton. I smoke, but I didn't inhale. And then we have Barack Obama on tape talking about doing a little blow and getting stoned and drunk day in and day out. Nobody paid any attention to that.
Or President George W. Bush, who also admitted to smoking marijuana.
Yeah, but it's changed is what I'm saying.
What's changing is a gradual acceptance of the reality of the fact that a whole lot of people smoke weed and they are productive members of society. And what you saw in Colorado possibly could be the result of the construction of really elaborate taboos around the use of this and telling kids that their hair's going to fall out and they're unable to cognate and they're not going to be productive members of society, and they try the drug and none of that happens. And guess what? You lose the trust of your child and credibility ability of that child.
But
by law.
listen, there might be a reefer madness aspect to that I would agree with, but it's when the kids smoke the second day of the week and the third day of the week, and then they smoke it.
The other thing is too, Sean, and I agree with Guy, I'm in the middle on this, but you have to consider here is if it's going to be recreational allowed and you're drinking and you're smoking and you're an impaired person, you're driving, that's another whole issue too that we haven't really discussed yet. When we're legalizing all of these things, you've got alcohol, marijuana, and whatever other gateway drug we're talking about here. It honestly is becoming a culture now that I think we need to be aware of when it comes to students on college campuses and even younger, because if it's legalized, it's going to proliferate. If parents are allowing it in the home, it's going to happen.
I'm not disagreeing. I don't get these parents that drink and smoke pot with their kids. Tom, NYPD.
NYPD, 8 years in the narcotics division. And at certain times, we were sent out on what we would call Federal Day. Federal Day is where we went to Bryant Park and we locked up people for one joint, and they went through the federal system to give the federal government dollars towards enforcing of narcotics. It was ridiculous. People faced 3 to 5 years in prison, which put a taxing on our criminal justice system. It put a taxing on the jail system in the federal government as well as the state government, to the point where the narcotics division, the New York City Police Department, did not enforce the narcotics laws as it related to marijuana.
All right, the only person that hasn't spoken yet, Dr. Williams, from a medical standpoint.
Well, one of the comments that I wanted to make was in regards to a gateway drug or frequent recreational use is usually there's an underlying mood disorder, anxiety, insomnia. So a lot of these, adults who are using, or children or adolescents, they're self-medicating. And I think what Joanne said earlier is learning how to coping mechanisms.
Joanne's
mood
right.
Support. Yeah, exactly. We need more of that.
Sean, the thing that's really setting pot apart from alcohol or from cigarettes is the psychiatric aspects of this. Anxiety, depression, paranoia, even psychosis. People get very anxious. Now, not everyone. Some people are inattentive, some are laid back, but the brain damage issue is even superseded by the psychiatric problems that can be long-lasting. And we're not talking about people trying it once, by the way. We're talking about ongoing use.
What studies do you have, though, that address prescription drugs and Ambien and Xanax and Valium and all of these other drugs? There is such an Wait, why can't I ever finish, Sean? Why you address how it's marijuana, but we have a prescription drug problem in this country. You can watch the front page of every newspaper,
all those two go together. They go together. They're not separate. We have a prescription drug problem in the country, but people often over-medicate prescription drugs.
All right, Dr. Braverman, real quick, medical.
Here's what they're missing. It's called epigenetics. Each generation that smokes pot with animals gets fatter, less anxiety, germ cells get damaged. You can end up with generation after generation just because.
But isn't it cultural too?
It's about behavior. Behavior. When you're a bad boy and you eat junk food, you don't get fat in a day. The reasoning that's here is blinded and shallow and non-medical.
Well, because
you need to get to fat.
Because we're talking.
Just because you smoke pot once and you get away with it, you smoke pot for a year and get away with it means nothing. All right?
You're saying long-term usage.
Long-term, you're talking about country, the behavior goes down. I got to break. Sean, you got to have some political reasoning here. Just like, slavery destroyed a country, and in terms of its freedom, all right? Just like New York voted for slavery, New York City voted for McClellan. You talk about revolutionary history, that there were Tories all over New York. We had confusion on stopping Hitler. These people are confused. They do not know that marijuana will damage their children generation after generation.
We'll pick it up when we come back. And by the way, do you remember when President Obama said this?
I discovered that it didn't make any difference whether you smoked reefer in the white classmate's sparkling new van or in the dorm room with some brother you'd met down at the gym.
Remember the Choom gang? It's no wonder it's becoming more and more socially acceptable to smoke weed. When politicians, celebrities, we're going to examine who's to blame for that cultural shift. We'll continue with this very, very mild-mannered studio audience next.
Back in town. Panama red. Panama red.
And welcome back to our audience edition of Hannity, Stoned in America. Now, we can't talk about the issue of pot without mentioning the influence of some celebrities, politicians, the influence they've had in making getting high part of the status quo. Here's some examples.
When I was in England, I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it, and didn't inhale, and never tried it again.
First time ever on the Huff Post. He's smoking.
I'm going to go through a list of your co-stars and celebrity friends. You tell me if you've blazed up with them or not. What about Rudd? What about Paul Rudd?
Oh, yeah, lots of times.
Absolutely. Okay, what about Sarah Silverman?
Yes, many times.
Yeah. What about Snoop?
Yeah, actually, I have.
The questions come up before Josh, and I said that I did experiment with marijuana when I was a youth.
We're very similar. He actually said that. It's just we're just all trying to.
That's because he's so high he doesn't even know what
Me
his
too.
name is
So
anymore.
it's fine. We both are.
All right, we bring back our studio audience. All right, you wanted to answer his question, Dr. Braverman's question. Go ahead, ask him.
Well, the problem here is we're conflating something bad with something illegal. You know, the 10 Commandments, only 2 of them are illegal. I don't want to go to jail because someone decided I wasn't using a drug in moderation. I use speed sometimes. That's Adderall. I use OxyContin. That's heroin. I mean,
you want all drugs legal?
Yes, I want all drugs legal because I trust people to use their own moderation.
All right, Chloe, yeah.
Of celebrities, though, since I work at HollywoodLife.com, I write about celebrities every day. You have people like Miley Cyrus and Rihanna talking and posting pictures of them smoking joints, but let's also bring up the fact that President Barack Obama, one of his close people who helped him throughout his campaign, who he talks about him as Jay-Z, and Jay-Z is a well-known former drug dealer. And I doubt that President Barack Obama wants Sasha and Malia ever smoking pot, especially not in the White House.
Well, and that's exactly the point is people that are in the public eye are de facto role models. And so they are a part of this culture that encourages, they want to push the envelope and that this is cool.
And they did great with their lives.
But here's the thing is not everyone who smokes a joint is going to become addicted. Not everyone who has a drink is going to become an alcoholic. But we want to create a culture that encourages kids to be the best they can be without a substance.
Well said. Well said. Noah.
But by locking them up in human cages for what they choose to put in their bodies. What kind of culture is that? What kind of culture? Did you listen to the cop? Did you listen to the cop about what he did on the streets when he tried to enforce this? That is not moral. That is not conservative.
Noah, in the back. No.
This is part of a really cyclical process in American history. We had a really big problematic debate about alcohol. We had a saloon culture which gave way to the temperance movement, which gave way to prohibition, which gave way to a culture we have now that sort of celebrates alcohol. It's all about pushback, and you're in danger of it going too far and pushing too hard one way or the other, the people who are pot activists and the people who are prohibitionists,
Joanne, if we legalize the drugs, all drugs like Gavin is saying, that means we walk the streets with people in crack-induced states of psychosis.
Well, yeah, drive on the road. I would say I don't really care either way because I don't do these drugs. But then again, if I lived next to a dispensary or if I lived next to Denver Park, I might have a different point of view on this.
Sean, we have alcoholism. We have people drinking too much, killing people. My point now, we legalized pot in Colorado. We have to now, with law enforcement, be able to test them on the spot like you do with an alcoholic. Because if someone's stoned out on pot, it's as bad as being stoned out on alcohol.
We will take a break. We'll come back. And coming up next tonight here on Hannity.
Don't drive at 20 miles an hour.
This is a Jack 47. You can take a look at it. You can see what the bud looks like. You can open it up. You can smell it.
All right, business is booming in marijuana stores in Colorado. Coming up next, our own Ainsley Earhart will take you for an exclusive tour of a pot dispensary. It's the behind-the-scenes look of what's going on and what might be coming to a state near you. Straight ahead.
Don't worry.
And welcome back to our audience edition of Hannity Stoned America. Now, last weekend, our team of producers, they toured a marijuana dispensary in Denver, Colorado. They learned some pretty interesting things about how pot is being sold so openly today. And our own Ainsley Earhart gives us an exclusive inside look at a recreational marijuana store.
When Colorado voters approved legalized marijuana in November of 2012, the Rocky Mountain state made worldwide headlines. 64! 64! Setting in motion what some call the Colorado weed boom.
Since it passed the amendment, my business went up. It's went up 20 to 30% during the mornings and about 10% at night. Tourism is up too. I see a lot of new faces every day.
We are doing phenomenal. Since the beginning of the year, I've been able to hire 2 to 3 more people that I did not have employed last year.
The passing of Amendment 64 has spawned a wealth of new pot businesses, and one of the fastest growing industries is the retail marijuana market.
All right, thank you guys. Take care.
More than 160 recreational pot retail stores now call Colorado home. One of the largest of these stores is Euflora. It's a smoker's one-stop shop for all things cannabis.
The Euflora is a recreational marijuana store located on the 16th Street Mall in Denver, Colorado. After the passing of Amendment 64, we really kicked into high gear to get a place here. I have 10 employees right now, and we'll probably be hiring another 3 to 5 within the next month because we're so busy.
It's pretty mind-blowing.
Customers can choose from 20 different varieties of cannabis with names like Jack 47, Face Rack, and Purple Urkel.
You're given a clipboard where it describes the 20 different flowers, and on these 4 different tables, we have 5 different strains. You can see what the strain is. For example, this is a Jack 47. You can take a look at it. You can see what the bud looks like. You can open it up. You can smell it. Then you can also go ahead and go through here and read about it, and it'll tell you the THC levels, the CBD levels, anything it might taste like, smell like, any effects, negative, positive, and also the medicinal uses for it.
And if lighting up isn't your thing, the store still offers a wide variety of edibles.
So these are gummy edibles. Basically, they are just like the real things that most of us as adults now grew up eating as children. They're just infused with THC, and each container has 100 milligrams. So basically, there's 10 pieces with 10 milligrams in each piece. If you like chocolates, these are really good. They're different flavors, and what we really like about these is they don't have a huge marijuana aftertaste for those people that are just new into trying this stuff.
Customers can also browse through the vast selection of smoking paraphernalia.
Basically here we have all different kinds of smoking devices. Knowing that this is a tourist industry that we're really targeting, we didn't want to have a ton of really expensive pipes because we know they're going to use them for a couple days and trash them, and they're not going to take them home with them. So we just got some kind of novelty fun items that people like. Can I help you with anything?
Agree or disagree with Amendment 64, one thing is for sure. Buying cannabis in Colorado is now as easy as going to the corner market to pick up a loaf of bread.
All right, Ainsley, great report.
Thank you.
It's like this is big money. You want to get rich?
Oh my
Open a
gosh, they're
dispensary,
making
right?
millions a day, millions. But we were talking during the last commercial break about how there's so many people on this panel that have admitted that they smoke pot regularly, and they're very successful individuals. And my thought was, well, we all went to high school with that one guy who was, or that girl who was so talented and had such a bright future, and then they let all of their hopes and dreams die because they were smoking pot every single day, getting suspended, getting expelled. And I was listening to the doctor earlier in the week say that your brain is developing until you're 30 years old. Yeah. So everyone in the audience agreed that later in life, maybe you can make some of these decisions, but it's these 20-year-olds that are smoking it every day.
Right, Brian in the back. Yeah. Brian, hang on, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, but my point to Ainsley is that same argument can be made for alcohol very clearly.
I don't agree with binge drinking. I don't agree with too much alcohol either.
Agreed.
Legal and one's not.
That is
exactly
exactly
right. Prohibition, and we know, everyone knows here that prohibition didn't work. So why does it work for weed? It doesn't.
I think you all are making excuses because the statistics show.
Let Guy answer, Matt. Go ahead.
Well, I happen to agree with him on that point, but I'll also say this. I think it is dangerous to sort of make a point based on anecdotes.
Scientists?
No. Science matters, but saying, I know a guy on either side of this, that's not a good way to form policy.
We got to break. Todd and Matt can battle it out when we get back, and we'll have our final thoughts and much more coming up with our studio audience as we continue this live edition of Hannity. Thanks for being with us.
My room is still messed up.
All right, closing thoughts with our studio audience. Matt, you wanted, and Todd, we're kind of disagreeing here.
Just quickly, a majority of Americans born after World War II have tried pot. If you try to make this thing illegal, it's prohibition. Just like we learned with alcohol prohibition, this
I don't think
prohibition
one person on this
work.
panel said to make it illegal. I think what the doctor was saying and what other people
were challenging the status quo right now, and that's what we're reacting against. The de facto status quo is it's illegal.
You worry about a slippery slope, crack, heroin. You worry about that.
I am not worried right now about a slippery slope. I'm worried about the slippery slope of incarceration.
Sean, here's what concerns me: the government hypocrisy. They spent millions of dollars ridding our college campuses of ho-hos and Doritos. What are these stoners going to do when they head to the vending machines to satisfy their munchies? Arugula? Soy milk?
Keisha in the back. Keisha.
I say no to drugs. It's a gateway drug. You can't compare it to alcohol. I drink alcohol occasionally, but it doesn't make me want to go out and do other drugs. But I know from based on what I do for a living, most people.
Wait till you drink alcohol with Tamara. It's an amazing experience.
After the show.
It's a gateway.
Listen,
Yeah.
all of this discussion about alcohol. Alcohol is a straw man argument here because alcohol leads to over 100,000 traffic accidents a year, most of them fatal. We can't use that as a reason to make pot legal. Pot is going to give us the same problem.
Doctor,
It impairs us.
you've been quiet. Hold on. Let's get our medical team in. Yeah, Doc.
And what was the question?
No, to your final thoughts.
Oh, my final thoughts. Oh, well, I think there's a lot of problems with the whole idea of the gateway drug. I still think that people who are more predisposed to getting addicted to marijuana or any other substance tend to have an underlying mood disorder.
Illegal. It has to be illegal with mandated treatment. I'm part of American Society of Addiction Medicine. Everyone that uses marijuana needs a better choice for anxiety management. And anytime you teach a generation that marijuana is your solution for anxiety and insomnia management, you're teaching them how to brain damage themselves.
Any kind of addiction is a symptom of a larger problem. That's our young people are troubled. They deal with anxiety, depression, eating disorders. All these kinds of things are ways for them to deal with life, and we need to support our young people so that they can turn to something other than drugs.
In closing, Sean, I'd like to point out one thing. Look at Miley Cyrus' Disney Channel years and look at her now. And you look at what drugs have done to her, and you look at her and you see and whatever else. And I'm sorry, but you look at Disney Channel and what that was promoting at that time, and now what is it? And you look at the influence of different factors maybe in her social life, but drugs have been one of them, and she's come out and said that. She's been
final
promoting
thoughts.
it.
Listen, we just had the Coachella Valley Music Festival the past 2 weekends, and Coachella Valley Music Festival. I've been before, and you see all these celebrities out there smoking pot, getting photographed when they don't want to get photographed. It's all about changing the culture and telling celebrities too, who are mentors to younger people.
Last word. Last word. Right here.
If you're in the public
He's going to go. You're going to smoke a joint right after this.
Legalize it.
All right.
Legalize it.
That's from him. Illegalize it. All right. Give yourselves a big hand. Thank you all for being with us. Appreciate it. All right. That's all the time we have left this evening. As always, thank you for being with us, and we'll see you back here real soon.